In today's slow drawing, we're going to be using a small piece of paper. We'll also be using a couple of thin tip markers, one a little bit thinner and one a little bit thicker to do some coloring. We're going to use a pencil and a tortillon or a shading stick. Our patterns will be flux, variations of flux, as well as verruca. Join me by setting an intention for your practice. You can join me with the intention of gratitude or picking a word for yourself. Take a deep breath, relax, and let's begin. With your pencil, let's place 4 dots on your paper and think about 4 things that you're grateful for. Let's join those 4 dots with lines. And now your paper is no longer blank. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to make many decisions about. We're going to start with a thin felt tip marker with a variation on flux around the corner. All the while, relaxing our hand and just breathing and breathing. Slow drawing can be a very mindful activity. It can be a very relaxing activity. And in the end, you have something that is very creative and beautiful. So I'm just doing one side of the flux and looping it up and around, all the while keeping my hand loose and calm. The purpose of my practice today is to reflect on gratitude and those things that bring me joy. It gives me a few minutes break in my day where I don't have to think about anything else but watching the lines appear on the page. I'm just starting where one leaves off and filling in the space that is there for me. Flux has a beautiful little stem down the middle here, that little crease in the leaf. And as I'm going, I'm just turning my tile to make ease of use as I go around. And if yours are smaller than mine or bigger than mine, it doesn't matter. You're not me, and so it should look unique. I like to put a little circle and make this a little bit cute. You can put some dots or other variations. The whole purpose is to relax, enjoy, be mindful, and in the end you'll be left with a beautiful little drawing. I'm going to do a little verruca in the middle. And I'm going to make this a little bit wavy so that's not a straight stem. And I'm going to make it really thin and just go really slowly and make it the same thickness all the way down. Verruca has a really nice underside, and that's where I'm going to bring in a little bit thicker marker and color that piece in. This is the underside of the flower where it often doesn't receive much light, but when it's put side by side with the other parts of the flower, it's very beautiful. So taking time for yourself is a really good thing to do. Being mindful, this is a great activity for that, because as you're placing the lines on there, it's really hard to think of anything else. So now I'm going to add the flower petals of the verruca starting in the middle with a nice big round one, and then the others continue on each side, getting smaller as we near the edge. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Might have 3 or 4, might even have 5 depending on the size of yours. Those were the 2 patterns for today. Let's take a look and place a frame around the outside. I first placed it in pencil because a frame or a border is simply a suggestion. It's not a rule, but I think I'm going to keep this border as I began, and now I'm just going over it one more time with that nice solid line of black, just to give it a little bit of definition. I'm just going to go all the way around and give it that definition. We've got a beautiful little flower picture. Let's give it a little bit of dimension. I'm going to just put a little bit of pencil along the bottom of where each line appears in the flux. Shading can be really creative as well. I'm also placing it in places where it might most likely be a little bit shaded around the bottom of that flower. And then I'm just going to blend that in so it becomes a really soft suggestion and a little soft suggestion of contrast. So I'm using a tortillon or shading stick. If you don't have one of these, you can get a tissue, a Q-tip, anything that might do some blending once you've put some of the pencil down. I'm also going to add a little bit of shade on one side of verruca that might be a little bit darker than where I'm going to place it next. And then let's give it a little bit of contrast from the background in behind to the foreground of the flux. And I'm just going to scribble really lightly in some pencil, putting enough down. I can always come back and put some more. I'm just going to have this as a contrast. And then now I'm just going to blend that all in between where there's space and around verruca. There's no real rules for shading. It's just what looks good to you. Taking a deep breath. Are your hands relaxed? Are you focused on one line at a time? And if yours doesn't work out as intended, it's always a nice surprise. What happens, happens. And now I'm just going to smooth things out, making bigger strokes around, blending it all in together. Now, as part of the Zentangle Method or Zentangle process, it's time to turn our card and decide which way is up and which way is down. Do I want an upside down flower? I think I'm going to keep mine in the traditional orientation. And I'm going to put my initials somewhere along there. Again, it is a beautiful creation of art that can be enjoyed over and over again. Thank you for joining me in today's practice. I encourage you to continue on with your practice, combining patterns that look beautiful together for you.